I guess if you could just start, Bob, with kind of a brief overview of where the company is right now for anyone that may be watching this later. I know Gareth is familiar with and Florian are familiar with the company to a certain extent, but if you could maybe just give us a brief intro about what the company is doing right now, why we should be excited, then I can ask some questions.
Sure. So, Aaron, since the last time we spoke, we've now completed, our discontinued operations of all wholesale activity. The goal was to cut 13 million of expenses and outsource all of the production work we were doing to third-party licensees. That is all done. Actual cuts are more around 15 million coming into 2025. We think we have operations in a really good place, and with the outsourced licenses, G3 entered into a 25-year master license for the Halston brand. They are slightly behind their shipping schedule that they initially gave us. They thought apparel would go out spring 24, but it in fact went out fall 24. And the original plan was shoes, bags, apparel, spring 24. Apparel went out fall 24. Shoes and bags are going out spring 25. Okay. So they were a little behind. So this year we expect a little excess over the guaranteed minimum in that contract, because some of the shoes and bags will ship inside of this year for spring delivery. Right. And on the apparel launch, they had a reasonably good launch. So we think based on the volume they did in the fall launch, going into next year, we should be in really good shape across shoes, bags, and apparel from them. Mm-hmm. And then all the third-party licensees that they took over are doing well, including the Halo product. That's the Halston product that shipped into premium retail like Saks and Neiman Marcus and Nordstrom and Bloomingdale's. So we're very excited about what's happening with the Halston brand. JTV had a great first year with our Judith Ripka brand. They have now planned the brand up going into 25 from 60 hours of on-air time to over 110. So expect a doubling of that business. Our Sea Wonder business at HSN is doing amazingly well. It did around 13 million in a short half-year season last year. This year, it'll end at around 22 with a plan of 45 next year. So great things happening with the Sea Wonder program. Yep. Christy Brinkley got off to a great launch with HSN. The launch was intended to be $3 million launch. They realized after a sellout on the first show, they needed to chase inventory. So this year it'll be 6 to 7, going to anywhere from 12 to 15 into next year. The pipeline that we have includes a recent launch of another apparel designer, Lloyd Boston. He's an industry insider. People know him. And we did a test with Lloyd about a month ago, and every single piece had a 5-star rating. So that gives, of course, HSN comfort to really lean into Lloyd going into next year. We are launching a new In the Kitchen TikTok star on HSN in March of 25. And
you haven't announced who that is, have you?
We have not announced who it is. We usually do that when we're a little closer.
Yeah, right.
She has roughly today about 5 million followers on TikTok. She's a sensation. Also has a big and growing business in a bricks and mortar retailer in the mid-tier zone. So we're very excited about the prospects for her. And like we had this year, where we had three things in the pipeline going into 24, spring 25, we think the pipeline will be about the same going into 25, three new opportunities that we will be bringing to interactive TV as well as bricks and mortar retailers. So we're excited about where we're going. We're not involved in any production today. We've returned back to the original operating model that we had. Our short form video and social commerce platform is going well. The hard launch was July 23rd to date. They're reporting to us. Of course, that's a minority investment for us.
Right.
25,000 downloads over the last 6 weeks or so, 7,700 active users. There are 15, I would call them aspirational luxury brands on the platform. Orme is differentiating itself in the marketplace by onboarding only aspirational luxury brands. We're not trying to be like, say, Flip or even TikTok itself, where it's a lot of smaller brands. We're looking for an average order value of over $100 on that platform. And Orme, as a private company, will be doing its own capital raise that they anticipate they will be in the market with before year end. So that's the update overall. We find ourselves in good shape. We're in the new office. We built a beautiful HSN compliant live stream studio. So all good.
So you're in different offices than where you've been before.
Well, when we made the cuts, we were in 30,000 feet. We didn't need it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so we found a subtenant and downsized into I would say, a more elevated building, but less square footage, 12,000 feet, which is what we need to operate the business the way that we're operating it today.
Excellent. So I guess just going back to we can start from the G3 that you talked about. You're saying that you expect by spring 2025 that'll be fully ramped up, and you would start potentially by the end of 2025. Am I correct then that you would be towards the maximum end of that?
Oh, no. So the maximum under the G3 license is 8 million per year.
Okay.
And to get there, they would need to be doing about 160 million in wholesale volume. Of course, G3 has publicly stated that they would be at 500 million by year 3, which would be great if they do that. But we top out at 160. So the way we've modeled it and the way analysts are looking at it is they're building up to that 8 million by the 3rd year.
Sure, makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. And then how does it work, like with the C Wonder and the JTV stuff that you were talking about, in terms of like with JTV, the doubling the time on air? Is that do you expect that would double your revenue from those, or is there going to be a topping out there as well? How does that? Just not familiar at all.
No, there's no topping out under those licenses. So we would expect revenue to double. And the whole goal with everything we're doing at HSN is to replace the 7 to 8 million of EBITDA contribution we had from Isaac Mizrahi. Remember, we exited a 70% interest in that asset in 22 and sold off 7+ of EBITDA. So the goal was to replace that with C Wonder, Christie, and all the other ones we're doing.
And which brand was it? Or maybe there were a couple. I know you had some issues late last year and even this year. I believe it bled into this year where there were some scheduling problems. sound like with some of the towns, sounds like that maybe got resolved.
So one, that was Isaac.
Okay.
And that has been resolved. Because we're still managing that business, even though we own 30%.
Okay.
So we resolved that, and we had a similar problem with our Lori Goldstein brand, and we made a decision with that brand because of the way we acquired that asset. There was an earnout, and the earnout created about a $6 million contingent obligation, and the earnout had a sweep component to it. So while it was contributing $1.5 million of EBITDA, it was contributing no cash flow. And with an on-air personality that was giving us a difficult time, which was somewhat of a wound inflicted by QVC changing policy.
Yeah.
And we decided, because she came to us and said, hey, I would like to buy the brand back. We did. And we made over a 90% return on our investment. In doing that, we eliminated the contingent liability and had a gain in Q2. Yeah.
Okay. And then in terms of Orme, what's your expectation there in terms of are you going to make contributions when they do this raise, or to keep your level of ownership at the same place, or what are your thoughts there?
I think it depends on valuation.
Okay.
None of us are technically officers of Orme. I serve as non-executive chair.
Okay.
There is a CEO at Orme. He is a quintessential tech entrepreneur. So, there's been a big number discussed with the bankers on valuation, but the market will tell us what that is.
And what are your, is it meeting your expectations of where it would be at this time? Is it further ahead? Is it a little delayed? What's your read on that?
No, I think it's where we thought it would be. We're being very selective about the kinds of brands that come on. And there's been some recent really good developments in the whole video social commerce space. I don't know if you saw these announcements, but Amazon and TikTok have aligned.
Wow, really?
And Shopify and YouTube announced that they have aligned.
Oh, interesting.
For this purpose. McKinsey has changed their number now to $1 trillion by 2030 as an industry opportunity. It's coming. And the interesting thing between those two alignments is that Shopify and YouTube believe it's going to be more about longer content, and TikTok and Amazon believe it's about short form content. So we'll see, who's right. My guess is it's going to be a combination of both, and Orme was set up to do both. So, it's good to see this movement. It is coming like it did in Asia, and Orme, if it can just capture 50 basis points of market share,
sure,
it's an amazing opportunity, for us.
So that's what I was going to ask then. So how do you view them? Since you're speaking so positively, I suppose the other side of it is that they would be competitors and that they've already got a name for themselves and so forth. So how do you, what makes you excited about it? Just capturing that 50 basis points, or?
One, I think yes, that is it. And two, to date, none of those major platforms have been able to get the better brands on board. Not even Amazon. It just hasn't worked. When you think about retailers, or you think about how retailers locate within a mall, most malls have call it European luxury section, Then you get the American aspirational brands. Then you get the more digitally native brands, and then it's everyone else in the mall, including the food court.
Right.
It's just how retailers behave. We think that the Orme strategy of being a marketplace, because that's what Orme is. It's one of three marketplaces today. There's TikTok, there's Orme, and there's Flip. Those are the three marketplaces. And we're differentiating from the other two with Orme by being more of the aspirational premium place. The largest brand on Orme today is Anne Klein.
Okay. And so just what their user base is now, it's fairly small, it sounds like, in terms of downloads and active users. What plans do they have, I guess, once presumably that's a good portion of what they're going to use a raise for?
It's almost 100%. The tech is built and deployed and beta tested and all of that. And there are 4 marketing buckets or funnels within the marketing strategy. And that's what the capital raise is for. So they want to do some staffing and then put the capital to work on app deployment. Because when you think about what is Orme or what is any marketplace or any social media platform, it's basically a two-sided network. And often when you have two-sided networks, you make a choice. It often comes with one side of the network gets subsidized. So in this case, it's not the vendor side. You're subsidizing the user side.
Right.
And you can either buy people to come on, or go buy platforms that already have users on that are seeking consolidation in all of what's going on. So Orme needs capital for that.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I mean, obviously something brand new. How are people going to know about it unless you advertise? It's not like you got Amazon or YouTube behind it. So.
Yeah. So, Flip came up and did it. And, they made that decision to subsidize the user side, and they were literally paying people to download and paying people to get a friend to download. So that's one bucket that's going to happen along with digital marketing. And then there are email campaigns that each of the vendors are doing to introduce their customers. And then there's an actual bricks and mortar strategy where we're talking to people like Ramasians from Mall of America and the American Dream and Simon Group, where we're contemplating kiosks in malls where we can have people in there live streaming, but also people that are selling the idea of downloading the app to make extra money.
That's a good idea.
And then also, Orme has received a letter of intent from iHeart to work on a media for equity and capital exchange. So
interesting.
So deals like that are being discussed with others, including Hearst and Condi and other media companies.
Okay. Now, what do you expect for your capital needs outside of whatever you may decide to do with Orme? It sounds like you're expecting to be at least cash flow neutral the rest of the second half of 2024, and then probably positive into 2025. Is that a fair characterization?
Yeah. So what we told everyone is we will break even Q2. We're going to have a little bit of an operating loss for Q3, then swing to profitability in Q4 because the last bit of the expense cuts are happening. And then it's up from there going into next year. We would have been profitable had G3 stayed on schedule. But sometimes launches take a little longer, and it's better when you're launching in fashion to get it right than to
Yeah.
rush it.
Well, and on a 25-year deal, it's negligible if they're behind, 2 quarters on part of it on the apparel and a year on the other stuff. So
Correct.
in the grand scheme of things.
And we do have significant borrowing capacity with our assets.
Okay.
So when you think about where the balance sheet is today, we have $4.5 million of term debt, and we eliminated a $6 million contingent obligation. So we think we're in good shape in terms of borrowing capacity if we need it.
Good. Now, I think one of the most positive, I don't know, development or signs has been the fact that you and Seth agreed to a compensation change, which you receive what I think 40% of your compensation now in stock instead of
Yeah.
cash, and presumably that would, together with some purchases you made at market value, would indicate what you think the value of the company is going forward. Is that fair to say, or is what you
I would
added?
say that is correct, and it wasn't just me and Seth. In the last equity offering that we did with Craig Hallam, management and board member invested $500,000 into that issuance, and we continue to accumulate stock by the salary exchange. So that's how we're thinking of it.
Good, good. And you already had a significant share of the company. What's your ownership percentage now, roughly?
So
insider, not just you personally. But.
Yeah, so insider ownership today is nearly 60%.
Okay, I thought it was at least 50. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that's one of the things I like about it's a straightforward story. You went from the wholesale business to the licensing and cutting expenses. You have all sorts of tailwinds behind you right now with various brands. So, and I think the G3 alone, with the incremental increase from that, as you mentioned, and I want to reiterate, is I've been following G3's public calls, since I started following you, and they seem to be gung ho about what they think Houston can do. And now that you've told, I don't think I've heard before from you the 160 million revenue for them is where you top, or wholesale from them is where you top off. And as you said, they're talking about 500 million. So even if they're off by, they're 50% less than that, you're in good shape. So
yeah,
yes, that's how we're looking at it, and with Ripka, JTV's a great partner. They're the #1 seller of jewelry on television. So we're excited about everything that we're doing. One point that I'd like to add, you said we transitioned out of the wholesale business. For the first 10 years of our operations, we were purely licensing. And it wasn't until Q4 of 19, 2 of our core licensees went out of business. One discontinued US operations, the other one went into bankruptcy. And we had to step in. What we didn't know when we stepped in is that COVID was going to hit 90 days later. And that just kept us servicing those businesses during probably the 3 hardest years in our industry.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's what happened. So, the moment we saw that sales of our brands were increasing and demand was increasing, even though we weren't making money, we were able to get into those license agreements and get out of it.
Oh, one other thing I guess I do have about Houston is, do you have, I can't remember now, do you have other are you licensing that out to others besides G3, or are they sub-licensing it?
So it's a master license to them.
Okay, okay.
We had sub licenses in place. They took all of those over. And
Okay,
they pay us a contractual minimum every year.
okay, okay. Excellent. Well, guys, I appreciate your time. And we'll definitely be looking forward to your Q3 report, and certainly, like we said, a lot of tailwinds and I think some good days ahead.
Agreed.
Thank you,
Everything's
Aaron.
growing.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good
Take
evening.
care.
You
Afternoon,
too.
evening.
Bye.
Some or all the speakers may maintain positions in the securities discussed in this podcast. The views in this podcast expressed are those of the speakers, not Breakout investors. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions. Neither Breakout Investors nor any of its affiliates makes any representation or warranty, express or implied, as to the accuracy or completeness of the statements or any information presented by this podcast and any liability, including in respect of direct, indirect, or consequential loss or damage, therefore is expressly disclaimed. No one on this podcast is an investment advisor, and no one is providing investment advice. Before investing in any company's stock, you must do your own research. Thank you for listening.